The ego doesn't die, it disappears. I want you to understand this from the start, because otherwise, the entire path to enlightenment will become a tiring inner struggle. The ego never dies. It only disappears when it is clearly seen. Many people embark on the spiritual path with a hidden desire. I want to get rid of my ego. But that very statement is full of ego. Who is the one who wants to get rid of it? Who is the one who wants to become noble, humble, and enlightened? Nisargadatta Maharaj never taught us to fight the ego. He only constantly pointed out one thing: see it as illusory. The ego exists not because it is strong, but because it has never been questioned to its root. It lives on your unconscious consent. Every time you say, I am sad, I am hurt, I am offended, I fear loss, you are signing your name to its existence. You don't need further practice to weaken the ego. You just need to stop fueling it. The paradox is, the more you try to destroy the ego, the more sophisticated it becomes. The more you want to become egoless, the larger your spiritual ego grows. Maharaj often said it very bluntly: you don't need to improve who you are. You need to know you are not that person. So the question isn't, when will I be free from the ego? But when will I stop believing that the ego is me? What is the true self in the perspective of Nisargadatta Maharaj? If you don't understand what the self is, you will be confused by all the signs on the path to enlightenment. In the Advaita Vedanta, particularly through Nisargadatta Maharaj, the self is not an entity. It has no form, no center, no independent essence. The self is merely an idea repeated long enough to become familiar. What is that idea? I am this body. I am the thinker. I am the one living this life. The moment I is attached to something, body, memory, role, emotion, the self is born. Maharaj points out, before you say I am this, remain with I am. Pure. I am has no story. It has no history. It has no future. It has no qualities. But the moment you add, I am a man, I am a woman, I am a failure, I am a practitioner, the mind begins to construct a structure called the ego. The important thing you need to see: the ego doesn't think, thoughts happen. The ego doesn't feel, feelings come and go. The ego doesn't act, actions happen. But because of a lack of awareness, you take all of that as mind. The ego exists thanks to psychological time, past and future. It needs memory to say, I was like this. It needs desire to say, I will become like that. When you are fully present, not clinging to memory, not running to the future, the ego has no place to stand. Signature number 1. You no longer feel the need to defend your I. One of the clearest and most easily overlooked signs that your ego is weakening is, you no longer reflexively defend your I image as you once did. Observe honestly. When someone misunderstands you, criticizes you, judges you, or simply doesn't see you the way you want them to, what happens inside? If the ego is still strong, the reaction appears almost immediately. A stream of thoughts wanting to explain, an unpleasant feeling needing to be soothed, an urge to clarify, prove, reclaim justice. That's not wrong. It's just the ego's defense mechanism. But when the ego begins to weaken, something very strange happens. You realize you don't need to defend anything at all. Not because you've become passive, not because you're afraid of conflict, but because deep down, you find that there is no real I being threatened. Nisargadatta Maharaj once said, in a very sharp way, when you know you are not the body, who can offend you? Notice this subtle difference. Before, criticism touched the core of your being. Now, it just passes through awareness. You still hear, you still understand, but there is no longer an inner someone deeply hurt. This doesn't happen through practicing a noble response. It happens because the ego is no longer the default center of experience. You begin to see clearly. Other people's words are expressions of their minds. Your emotions are fleeting phenomena. The image of me, it's just a story being told. When you see this clearly, your natural defenses crumble. A very clear sign. You no longer need to be right all the time. Before, right and wrong were a matter of survival for the ego. Now, you can let others be right without feeling like you're losing out. Not because you're giving in, but because no one is there to win. Inner silence begins to emerge, not forced silence, but the absence of conflict. And in that absence, true wisdom begins to speak. Second sign, you no longer seek external validation. The ego thrives on reflection. It needs others to look at it to know who it is. When the ego is strong, you will find yourself, however subtle, constantly seeking validation, praise, a feeling of I am valuable. This may be hidden behind beautiful forms, helping others, sharing knowledge, even teaching spirituality. But deep down, there is still a silent question. Do you see me? Nisargadatta Maharaj does not condemn this. He only points out, whatever needs validation is not yet. As the ego begins to weaken, a very subtle change occurs. You no longer crave validation. You can still be praised. You can still be criticized, but both lose their power. Success no longer excites you excessively. Failure no longer destroys you. Not because you have transcended life, but because you no longer place your self-worth in the outcome. A very coarse saying of Maharaj is, happiness does not come from being validated by someone. It comes from not needing validation anymore. You begin to feel a very special state, a feeling of contentment. Not contentment because you have a lot, but contentment because you no longer feel a lack. You can be alone without feeling lonely. You can be silent without feeling forgotten. You can live simply without feeling inferior to anyone. And most importantly, you no longer need to tell your story to exist. You don't need to constantly talk about what you've been through. You don't need to emphasize how knowledgeable you are. You don't need to prove how profound your spiritual path is. Your presence is enough in itself. When you no longer seek external validation, you return to a very primal point where Maharaj always points directly. Stay with I am. There are no audience, no judge, no one to be recognized, only awareness in itself. Third sign, emotions still come, but no one possesses them anymore. One of the biggest misunderstandings on the path to enlightenment is thinking that awakened people no longer have emotions. That is completely untrue in the spirit of Advaita Vedanta, and especially contrary to the teachings of Nisargadatta Maharaj. Emotions still come. Sadness still comes. Joy still comes. Fear, love, excitement, even anger, all can still appear. But one thing has fundamentally changed. No one claims them as mine anymore. Before, when emotions arose, you would say, I am sad, I am hurt, I am angry, and immediately a story is constructed. Why am I sad? Who made me sad? What should I do with this emotion? That's where the ego comes in and takes ownership. As the ego weakens, something very quietly happens. The emotion appears in the space of awareness, but it doesn't become the center. You begin to see sadness is being felt, anger is being felt, joy is being felt, but the feeling of this is me is gone. Nisargadatta Maharaj says it very directly. Emotion is the movement of the mind. You are that moving awareness. This distinction cannot be learned theoretically. It is only realized when you truly remain with the emotion without interference. You don't suppress it. You don't analyze it. You don't try to transform it. You simply know it. And it is in that pure awareness that the emotion completes its natural life cycle and dissolves, leaving no scar. No psychological memory remains. A very clear sign. You no longer recount your emotions as much as before, not because you don't have emotions, but because there is no longer someone who needs to be understood through emotions. You begin to deeply believe this truth. Emotions don't define me, and when emotions no longer define you, you break free from the cycle of psychological healing and enter into existential freedom. Fourth sign, you talk less about yourself, but you are more present. The ego loves to tell stories. It exists through the story of my life. When the ego is strong, you will find yourself subtly, frequently, telling about the past, explaining your journey, emphasizing what you have experienced, understood, and overcome. Not because you are boasting, but because the ego needs constant affirmation of its existence. As the ego weakens, something very different happens. The story of you gradually loses its appeal, even to yourself. You no longer feel the need to say who I am, what I used to be like, what stage I am at on my spiritual path. It's not because you're avoiding it. It's because you feel those stories don't touch upon the truth. Nisargadatta Maharaj once said, "The story is never the truth. Only what is present is the truth." When you talk less about yourself, others might misunderstand. You are quiet. You are distant. You are unapproachable. But deep down, you know very well, your presence becomes deeper, broader, and wordless. You listen more, not to respond, but because there is no longer the noise of I preparing to speak. You are in the conversation, but not swept away by it. You are in the midst of life, but not lost in the role. A very subtle sign. Others feel at peace when they are near you, even though you don't talk much. Not because you're trying to transmit energy, because when the ego subsides, the space of presence itself becomes healing. You don't try to influence, but your silence becomes a teaching. And that is what Nisargadatta Maharaj lived fully. No persuasion, no conversion, no leading, simply being present as a living truth. Fifth sign, you begin to see suffering as a teacher, not an enemy. When the ego is strong, suffering is always seen as a mistake, something that shouldn't happen, a state that needs to be eliminated, corrected, overcome. And the entire psychological life of a person revolves around this. Avoiding suffering, seeking pleasure. But Nisargadatta Maharaj looks directly at a truth that very few dare to face. Suffering is not the problem. Identification with suffering is the problem. As the ego weakens, a fundamental reversal occurs in how you interact with suffering. You no longer ask, how can I be free from suffering? Instead, a deeper question arises. Who is suffering? And this very question shakes the entire structure of the ego. Previously, every time suffering arose, you resisted, you analyzed, you sought solutions, you sought meaning. All of that revolved around protecting the center of I. But as the ego weakened, you began to allow suffering to be there, without fleeing, without romanticizing, without spiritualizing. You looked straight ahead, not with an attitude of resignation, but with uncompromising awareness. And in that gaze, an unbelievable truth emerged. Suffering always points to where you are still identifying. Where there is deep suffering, there is a threatened I. I am abandoned. I am despised. I am out of control. I am unloved. Suffering becomes the most honest mirror of the ego. Therefore, you no longer hate suffering. Neither do you love it. You listen to it. Nisargadatta Maharaj said very sharply, suffering forces you to see. Happiness lulls you to sleep. When you no longer run away from suffering, it does its final thing. It vanishes, having fulfilled its function, not because you have overcome it, but because no one needs to learn the lesson anymore. This is a very clear sign. Suffering no longer leaves a lingering story within you. It comes, it is seen, and it goes. No accumulation, no becoming an identity. And at this point, You are very close to the final door that Maharaj always pointed to. I am, the return to the self. If I had to say just one thing from the entire teaching of Nisargadatta Maharaj, it would be, return to I am before any identification. I am is not a philosophical affirmation. It is not a new belief to replace an old one. It is a direct experience mediated by the mind. Before you say, I am this body, I am the seeker, I am the awakened one, there is a very simple event happening. You are. No image, no description, no story. Maharaj calls this the sense of being, the pure feeling of being. When you remain with I am, the ego is not attacked. The ego is not denied. It simply isn't being nurtured. And what isn't being nurtured will dissolve on its own. I am doesn't require special meditation, no posture, no ritual. You just need to stop adding anything to it. Don't say, I am a good person. Don't say, I am a bad person. Don't say, I am a person on the path to enlightenment. Stop before that moment. There is no ego to be weak or strong. No progress, no regression, only being knowing itself. A very profound sign of abiding in I am. You no longer need to conclude about yourself. You don't need to know who you are. You don't need to define where you are. You don't need to be sure whether you are enlightened or not. This uncertainty isn't vague. It is absolute freedom from all conceptual frameworks. Nisargadatta Maharaj said, stay with I am. Everything else will fall apart on its own. Namaste.